I couldn't believe that he had said those things, first of all, made those statements, those racist statements, and then, threw me in, don't bring him to my games. And so you personally attacked me.
I'm a good member who made a mistake, and I'm apologizing, and I'm asking for forgiveness.
Accordingly, effective immediately, I am banning Mr. Sterling for life from any association with the Clippers organization or the NBA.
How bad was Donald Sterling? When NBA legends were asked about him in 2014, they didn't hesitate. They unleashed a united public assault on the Clippers owner that made his position impossible. Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul Jabbar, and Chris Paul didn't just criticize Sterling. They dismantled him. They proved that player power could force out even one of the NBA's most powerful men. This is how they did it. If you like stories where players stand up for what is right, tap the hype feature and give this video some hype. We want to show you stories that matter, and your support helps us bring more of them. To understand the fury, you need to know who Sterling was. He had owned the Clippers since 1981, building a reputation as the worst owner in professional sports. From 1981 to 2014, the Clippers had the worst winning percentage of any team in the 4 major American sports leagues. This wasn't bad luck. Sterling refused to invest in the team. He extracted money while the franchise rotted. By April 2014, Forbes, the New York Times, and Sporting News all called him the worst owner in sports. Sterling had built no goodwill. He was already viewed as a parasite within the league ecosystem. Sterling's behavior extended beyond cheap ownership into open hostility toward his own players. He sat courtside and heckled them during games. In 2010, he targeted star point guard Baron Davis with vicious attacks while Davis played. This sent a message. The owner viewed players not as professionals, but as property. Sterling also had a legal history of discrimination. The Department of Justice sued him for refusing to rent to African Americans and families with children. He faced numerous discrimination lawsuits and sexual harassment suits. The shocking racial statements revealed in 2014 were not surprises to people who knew his past. They were simply the latest chapter in a decades-long pattern. In late April 2014, TMZ released an audio recording. Donald Sterling was speaking to his associate V. Stiviano, and his words exposed his worldview. He was upset that Stiviano had posted a photo on Instagram showing her with Magic Johnson. Sterling said, "It bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. Do you have to?" He wanted to profit from black athleticism while maintaining a public image of whiteness. He wanted the labor without the association. Sterling then gave a direct instruction. He told Stiviano, "Don't bring him to my games." He elaborated that she could sleep with black men in private, but she was not to post Magic Johnson on Instagram or bring him to the arena. By naming Magic Johnson, Sterling made a catastrophic error. Magic was not just a former player. He was a global NBA ambassador and successful businessman. By banning him, Sterling effectively tried to ban the NBA's history from his own building. He gave abstract racism a concrete victim who had the power to fight back. This would become the spark that ignited all 5 legends. Now let me tell you about number 5, Chris Paul. Chris Paul was the Clippers' point guard and president of the Players Union. While retired legends fought in the media, Paul was in the trenches managing his team and negotiating the collective response of the entire player body. On April 27, 2014, before Game 4 of the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors, the world waited. Would the Clippers refuse to play? Instead, Paul led a unified, silent protest. During warm-ups, players removed their outer shirts to reveal red warm-up tees turned inside out. The Clippers logo was now hidden. They wore black wristbands and black socks in solidarity. In the huddle, Paul shouted to his teammates, "It's just us, only us, we're all we got." The message was clear. The team existed independent of the owner. The players were the product. The owner was the liability. Paul worked closely with coach Doc Rivers, whom players viewed as a father figure during the crisis. While playing the 2014 playoffs, Paul made clear that patience had limits. He and Rivers discussed a boycott if Sterling remained as owner for the next season. Paul said, "That's something me and Doc are both talking about. Something has to happen, and something needs to happen soon. Sooner rather than later." He was unambiguous. It's unacceptable to play for Sterling again. This threat put immediate pressure on the legal proceedings. The team would stop functioning by October if Sterling remained. As union president, Paul was the direct line to Commissioner Adam Silver. His support was crucial. After Silver announced the lifetime ban, Paul issued a statement. "My teammates and I are in agreement with his decision." By aligning the union with the commissioner, Paul isolated Sterling. It was now the league and the players versus the owner. Now let me tell you about number 4, Kareem Abdul Jabbar. While others provided outrage, Kareem provided diagnosis. Kareem was a scholar, historian, and activist who understood the deep currents beneath the scandal. He contextualized Sterling's racism within American history. He moved beyond "bad man said bad things" to examine systemic power dynamics. Kareem had direct personal experience with Sterling's worldview. During a brief coaching stint with the Clippers in 2000, Sterling expressed a preference for how the team should be run. He said, "Personally, I would like to have a white Southern coach coaching poor black players." Kareem was shocked. He confronted Sterling and asked if that was racist. Sterling didn't understand. Kareem told him plainly, absolutely, that's plantation mentality." This anecdote proved the 2014 tapes were not an aberration. They reflected a long-held philosophy where Sterling viewed himself as master of poor black players. In his essays for Time magazine, Kareem offered sophisticated analysis of the moment. He warned that moral outrage is often cheap. He wrote, "Let's use this tawdry incident to remind ourselves of the old saying, 'Eternal vigilance is the price of freedom.' Instead of being content to punish Sterling and go back to sleep, we need to vigilantly seek out, expose, and eliminate racism at its first signs." Kareem showed nuance. When another owner, Bruce Levinson of the Atlanta Hawks, was caught sending a racially insensitive email, Kareem defended him. He argued Levinson showed misguided white guilt while Sterling showed malice. This demonstrated Kareem was interested in distinguishing between clumsiness and hatred, not performative punishment. Kareem also analyzed Sterling's psychology. He observed that Sterling didn't think he was racist. Racists like Sterling believed that employing and paying black people excused their disrespect. This paternalism, the idea that providing a job bought the right to demean the person, was the core of Sterling's pathology. Now let me tell you about number 3, Michael Jordan. Jordan's role was unique because he spoke from two perspectives simultaneously. He was the greatest player ever and the only African-American majority owner in the league. Jordan had been criticized throughout his career for his apolitical stance. "Republicans buy sneakers too," he had said. This made his harsh condemnation of Sterling a watershed moment. Owners in professional sports typically maintain silence about each other. They fear criticism invites scrutiny into their own conduct. Jordan shattered this code. He said, "I look at this from two perspectives, as a current owner and as a former player." By explicitly invoking his ownership status, Jordan isolated Sterling within his own peer group. He declared himself disgusted that a fellow owner could hold such sickening views. Jordan's language was uncharacteristically emotional. He used words like sickening, offensive, outraged, and appalled. He said, "I am appalled that this type of ignorance still exists within our country and at the highest levels of our sport." He emphasized the racial composition of the league. In a league where the majority of players are African American, we cannot and must not tolerate discrimination at any level. Jordan's statement was strategically crucial. To ban Sterling, Commissioner Silver needed the Board of Governors' support. Other owners needed permission from within their own ranks to vote against one of their own. Jordan provided that permission. He gave cover for wealthy white owners to do the right thing without feeling they betrayed the owner class. If Michael Jordan was disgusted, defending Sterling became indefensible. Now let me tell you about number 2, LeBron James. If Magic provided moral condemnation, LeBron provided political muscle. In 2014, James was at peak power with the Miami Heat. He was the best player in the world and the face of the league. His involvement transformed this from a Clippers problem into an NBA problem. James's reaction was immediate and absolute. Speaking before a playoff game, he issued a non-negotiable statement. "There's no room for Donald Sterling in the NBA. There is no room for him." This was significant. James didn't say Sterling should be fined or suspended. He said there was no room. This was an exclusionary demand. James argued the NBA is the model citizen of sports globally, and Sterling's presence contaminated that brand. James placed the burden directly on Commissioner Silver. He said, "As the commissioner of our league, they have to make a stand. They have to be very aggressive with it. I don't know what it will be, but we can't have that in our league." He emphasized universality. It doesn't matter white, black, or Hispanic. All across the races, it's unacceptable. By framing this as a test of Silver's leadership, James ensured a weak response would be seen as commission failure. But James's public statements only hinted at the real pressure. Roger Mason Jr., the union's vice president and former James teammate, revealed the depth of his resolve. When asked if James would play the next season under Sterling, Mason Jr. said bluntly, "LeBron and I talked about this. He ain't playing." James later admitted to the mindset without using the word boycott. "I have kind of wavered back and forth if I would actually sit out. If our owner would come out and say the things he said, I would have to sit down with my teammates and talk to my family, because at the end of the day, our family and teammates are way more important than that." This ambiguity was strategic. It signaled the nuclear option was possible. The best player in the world might not play. James's leverage forced the league to skip progressive discipline and move straight to the death penalty. Now let me tell you about number 1, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson became the most critical figure in the entire saga. As the named target in the tape, his reaction would set the tone for everything. A violent outburst might have let Sterling paint himself as a victim. Instead, Johnson executed a masterclass in public relations. He used pity, religious ground, and business logic to isolate Sterling. Johnson's first reaction was genuine hurt. He said, "I was in disbelief that he would say these things, and then to throw me into this situation." He expressed disappointment at being caught in Sterling and Stiviano's relationship, but Johnson immediately accepted Sterling's ban. He said, "I won't come to your games. You don't have to worry about that." This strategic withdrawal highlighted the absurdity of an owner banning an icon. Johnson quickly pivoted from personal slight to collective offense. He recognized Sterling's attack on him as an attack on all minorities. He said, "I was upset because he threw minorities and African Americans and Latinos into this situation, and so I had to speak up. Look, I'm one of the leaders in the black community, so I can't let anybody attack our people and not respond." The conflict was redefined. It was no longer Sterling versus Magic. It was Sterling versus the black community, with Magic as standard bearer. The conflict escalated when Sterling appeared on Anderson Cooper 360 to apologize. Instead, he attacked Johnson viciously, focusing on his HIV status. Sterling asked, "What kind of a guy goes to every city, has sex with every girl, then he catches HIV? Is that someone we want to respect and tell our kids about?" He claimed Johnson doesn't help black people and should be ashamed. Sterling bizarrely said he prayed for Johnson when he had AIDS, conflating HIV with AIDS while displaying ignorance and malice. Johnson's response was the turning point. He didn't trade insults or threaten lawsuits. He offered pity. He told Anderson Cooper, "I'm going to pray for this man. It's sad, it really is. He's reaching. He's trying to find something that he can grab on to help him save his team, and it's not going to happen." Johnson characterized Sterling as upset and delusional, trying to deflect from his own racism. By refusing mudslinging, Johnson appeared presidential, while Sterling appeared unhinged. Johnson offered Sterling one final verdict: sell the team, take the money, and enjoy the rest of your life. The man Sterling tried to ban now dictated Sterling's exit. When all 5 forces converged, Sterling's position became impossible. Magic stripped his dignity. LeBron threatened the product itself. Chris Paul unified the workforce. Michael Jordan validated exile from within the owner class. Kareem provided historical context, showing this was about centuries of oppression and meeting resistance. On April 29, 2014, Commissioner Silver announced Sterling's lifetime ban and a $2.5 million fine. Silver apologized to Magic Johnson for being dragged into the situation. The ban led to legal battles involving Sterling's wife Shelley and questions about mental capacity. Ultimately, it resulted in the forced sale of the team to Steve Ballmer for a record $2 billion. Corporate sponsors fled immediately from the Clippers organization. Within 24 to 48 hours of the tapes circulating and legends speaking out publicly, the Clippers lost almost all major corporate sponsors and revenue partners. The exodus was unprecedented in sports history. CarMax dropped their sponsorship immediately. Virgin America suspended their sponsorship, citing the remarks. State Farm paused their relationship, making a nuanced choice to support Chris Paul while rejecting Sterling. Kia Motors, Red Bull, Mercedes-Benz, and Sprint all suspended their sponsorships. The speed and totality of the exodus was devastating to the Clippers organization. State Farm's decision was particularly symbolic and telling. They had deep ties to Chris Paul through major advertising campaigns and personal sponsorships. They paused rather than canceled, sending a signal that they supported the player, not the owner. The distinction was perfect, and precisely what the legends had argued. The players are the value, the owner is the liability. The scandal was ugly, but the aftermath showed something beautiful. When asked about Donald Sterling, NBA legends didn't equivocate. They didn't hide behind publicists. They executed a coordinated assault on his legitimacy. They proved that in the 21st century, plantation mentality could not survive when the people who build the game say no. The players realized they were not merely employees. They were the indispensable architects of the league's wealth. By speaking out, they showed that while Sterling held the title, he served at their pleasure. The revolt was total. The verdict was unanimous. The execution was swift. Donald Sterling was erased not because he broke a rule, but because he lost the consent of the governed. If this story moved you, subscribe so you don't miss more stories about power and integrity. Tell us in the comments which legend made the biggest impact. Thanks for watching.